It's official. The New York Rangers' longest tenured player has played his last game as a Ranger. We're going to break that down as a new report has revealed that Chris Kreider will be traded this offseason, and what Chris Drury has planned will surprise Rangers fans. We're going to break down this new report and what it means for the Rangers and the culture shift that's happening this summer heading into next season. We're going to break it down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, be sure to go down below, hit that free subscribe button. And again, this is the place to get your daily New York Rangers content. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. A new report from Larry Brooks has revealed that Chris Kreider, he's done. He will not be returning to the Rangers next season, and it looks like it is a mutual agreement at this point, and that the Rangers will look for a trade partner, and that Chris Kreider will be okay with it, waive his no trade clause, which he does not have a no movement clause, and the Rangers will be able to free up about $6.5 million of his cap hit. And as you can see here from Larry Brooks, Kreider and the Rangers expected to part ways. This is a direct quote from Larry Brooks as well. There is a strong sense that the feeling is mutual, that after 13 years with the organization, Chris Kreider recognizes that the relationship has run its course and that he needs a fresh start. So that's a big thing. If it is mutual, the Rangers are going to look, make no mistake about it, the Rangers, and as much as, fans, even myself, love Chris Kreider, and this is going to be a difficult day when he does end up getting traded, because man, this guy wanted to be a New York Ranger. He had some great moments as a New York Ranger, and unfortunately last season did not go as people planned. But this is a big thing. This is, if it is mutual, I mean, he's going to waive his no trade clause. The Rangers are going to look for a trade partner. This is going to happen because the Rangers want to free up salary cap space. And if they can free up $6.5 million, they can do quite a bit with that, because remember, they have just over $8 million in cap space right now. But a lot of that has to go to Matt Rempe. They have a couple RFAs to sign still, including Keandre Miller, just to name a few. So there, are still some contracts to be signed, and they have to make sure that they have enough money to do that and still be flexible in season, which Chris Drury notoriously likes to do. But the other thing is there's a lot of talent on this team, but they want to win a championship. And Mike Sullivan went on to say that talent doesn't win championships, teams win championships. And he knows that from Pittsburgh. Obviously, a lot of talent on the team, but you have to have character. You have to have that team aspect as well. He said that, this is a great quote from him as well in terms of, when he was introduced as the head coach last week in that press conference, and what he was, his plan for everyone individually on the team. And he said that everyone is different. Part of coaching, or the art of coaching, I guess, is trying to figure out what that daily recipe is and what's best for a player. Sometimes it's time in the AHL, sometimes it's time in the NHL, depending on the types of minutes the player can play. And what I will tell you is that I think it's important that every player earns their opportunities and no one's entitled to an opportunity. So I'm not saying that Chris Kreider is entitled to an opportunity at this point, but didn't have a great season last year. I mean, we can jump into his stats. He just straight up didn't have a good season. I mean, for his standards, he had 30 points in 68 games. And he's always been known as more of a goal scorer anyway, but these are not good totals for a guy who is going to be 35 next year. So this is something that the Rangers have to heavily consider. And when I say heavily consider, I think that Chris Drury wants to do this. I think that he knows it's time to move off of Chris Kreider, get something in return. And I think that Chris Kreider, again, by all accounts from Larry Brooks, it is mutual at this point. So it's going to be very interesting, as you can see here from Phil Kosher, that same quote that, they want to foster a culture in New York right now with the Rangers that everyone comes in at training camp and is battling for spots. Nobody's spots is guaranteed except for maybe like Artemi Panarin, and at this point, maybe Mika Zibanejad, because he is on a no movement clause. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens come training camp. But there's a lot of different, reports, rumors out there. We're going to cover in another video where Kreider could end up going and for who. And boy, is it a good trade. I will tease it now. Good trade for the Rangers if this were to come true. But I'll save that for another video. But as you can see in this article here, the longest tenured player on the roster has 2 years left on his contract. But again, there's a lot of teams out there, I think contenders as well, that would love Chris Kreider. And yes, it would be fantastic if you could get all $6.5 million of it off the cap. But realistically, you're probably going to have to retain some salary. And I think that that's okay if you can free up at least $4 million of cap from Chris Kreider's contract. So he did say that he hopes to stay with the Rangers and that the Rangers are home to him. He went on to say that this is home for me. This is an organization that gave me an opportunity to live out my dream. I've developed so many incredible relationships and grown up and spent so much time in this area. I mean, when he came into the league as a 19-year-old, or maybe he was 20 already, he came in right into the playoffs. He had a great first impression for Rangers fans, and now this is kind of what it's coming to, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you can understand the sentiment that this is home for him and he wants to stay here. But this is where I want to be, and this is a group that I want to help in whatever fashion win hockey games. And he went on to say that he was injured in the last half of the season and continued to get into games over some of the younger guys, which I thought was very interesting because he was not playing well and he was injured, and that makes sense. You won't play well when you're injured. So there was some weird stuff with that. He said it was obviously the wrist. Then there was a lot of speculation about him getting surgery and all of that earlier, and that ended up happening. And so he tried to play through it. Obviously, bone, tendon, muscle, a bunch of different things. You don't have to say I got some pictures taken and tried to tape it up a bunch to play through. Took a couple weeks off, and I think I might need to do some stuff to fix it up the next couple of weeks. So I assume he means surgery, and he should be ready to go for next season, whether he is a Ranger or not. And he went on to say, I've got to control what I can control, which for me right now is getting healthy, staying healthy through the course of next season, showing up in the best possible shape I can for training camp. So he's obviously focused on next season. I'm sure he wants to be a New York Ranger, but I can see that, he's probably appreciating the fact that the Rangers might want to move off of him, and maybe that will help the team in a way, especially with the salary cap space and the fact that they want to get younger. And again, I think Chris Kreider is a great player, and he's always been a great player for this Rangers team. He's had all these moments. It's going to be a sad day, don't get me wrong, if he is traded. But I think it's the right move for the team moving forward. You have your new leadership group. You do. And this is a guy that I think kind of quit on the team last season. Maybe for good reason. You could say that. But I do feel like this is a guy that kind of said, I don't want to do this anymore halfway through last season. But I can understand why, right? His name was thrown out there in trade rumors and all of that on purpose. So I can understand it. But again, he wants to be back. He wants to play for this team. So this is from Vince Mercogliano on the Rangers breakup day just last week. Chris Kreider's, he detailed his challenging season, that he was hurt. Not only that, but there was an illness. So yes, he had a bad season. Let's keep that in mind. But at the same time, just a bunch of weird fluky things this year. He said that the first half of the year, he had that back injury. Then he got really sick and he couldn't figure that out. He had vertigo. He had all this weird illness stuff going on. And then he was getting back into a rhythm, and then he got hurt at the Four Nations face-off. So he had a terrible season, but keep in mind that it was riddled with injury, illness, all of that as well. But he is starting to decline a little bit, right? So I wonder what happens next season. They could use that salary cap space. That is the biggest point that I'm trying to use here. We're trying to make here, that they could use that salary cap space, but we'll see if they end up wanting to bring him back. And if there is no, suitable trade, if there's nothing that makes sense for the Rangers either, you bring him back, see what he can do. I know he's getting older, but if he's not dealing with illness or injury, maybe he could have some type of an impact, especially on the power play, which he didn't this year, and the power play was not great. And that's the difference between making the playoffs and not, because we saw it last year. They had one of the best power plays in the entire NHL. And a couple things I wanted to get into too. 2 years left on his contract, $6.5 million. So the Rangers, if they could get off of at least $4 million of that, you're in a great spot if you're the Rangers. And again, 2 years left, so I could see a contender probably wanting to trade for him because he's only going to be 36 when the contract expires. But it should be pretty interesting. And when you take a look at the whole lineup, if you take Kreider out of there, Will Cooley can kind of move up in that spot. Then not pictured here is Brett Berard, who I imagine could play a full season in the NHL next year. And again, some very young pieces. I am very skeptical of that because, it's hard to win in this league, especially a Stanley Cup with a young team. But it's kind of the direction I think they have to start going at this point, because a lot of the core is getting older. I mean, Kreider's 2 years older than JT Miller, and a lot of people were saying that the JT Miller trade was bad because he was old. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up planning here. Again, I'm going to have another video on a trade, because there's a lot of rumors flying out there for Chris Kreider, so stay tuned for that. But let me know what you think in the comments about this new report from Larry Brooks that seems like it's time that the Rangers move off of Chris Kreider. It's going to be a sad day, but is it a necessary move? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.